Why do you think people say, no, zaruri nahi hai ki you will remember the book, but you will always remember the feeling of that
Feeling
book,
of reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, you will always remember it, like to the core. You might not remember the story, you might remember what quotes were there, you might not remember who wrote it and what is there in that story, but you will remember how it made you feel.
अगर तू उसके बुक शॉप में जाएगी इस बंदे के एंड यू विल टेल हिम कि सर प्लीज गिव मी डैन ब्राउन्स बुक, ही विल से नो आई डोंट वांट टू गिव यू डैन ब्राउन बुक. आई वो तेरे से क्वेश्चंस पूछेगा कि व्हाट डू यू डू इन योर लाइफ, व्हाट इज योर जॉब, व्हेन वाज योर लास्ट ब्रेकअप, हाउ वाज द ब्रेकअप, डू यू हैव अ लव स्टोरी, ऐसे वियर्ड क्वेश्चंस पूछेगा, वेरी पर्सनल क्वेश्चंस. And then according to what he understands of you and
He will give you a book.
according to what he thinks you need in your life, he'll give you a book and he'll tell you कि breakfast के पहले 10 पेज पढ़ना है, ब्रेकफास्ट खाने के पहले 10 पेज दूसरे बुक के पढ़ना है, ऐसे वो तेरे को देगा. इट इज लिटरली अ डॉक्टर ऑफ बुक्स एंड ही सेज कि आई ट्रीट द untreated feelings, untreatable feelings, which is so beautiful. Like this is what I want to do after I retire.
चित्रिका उड़ने खटोला के मंडोला.
अबे कॉपीराइट लगेगा, तू गाना मत गा. We talked about books yesterday, the day before yesterday, when I asked you all those questions and I asked you to make the book stack wala.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I have clicked the pictures. I've written the caption. I'm just waiting to put it now.
Right. So anyway, I think so. Like this podcast should start on that same note, because you are someone who didn't used to read as many books as you do now. Like maybe 2021, you have read 6 or 9 books in the whole year.
To be honest, 2021 mein I had read, I think, 3 books.
Right. हाँ मतलब fairly lower number than right now. And this year, how many months have been इस साल में? I think so 5 months.
This is the fifth month, May. That is going to be completed.
Yeah.
Right.
And how many books have you read?
If I'll count the ones that I'm reading as well, and I've finished also, so it will be 9.
Yeah. And so you have read literally triple the number of books that you read last year. And what kind of change it brought in your life? Like what kind of change does reading do to you?
One, it's my escape to the reality, a major one, for some time now. Okay. And
for second, reasons that we cannot say on the podcast.
Never mind. let's not go there.
Yeah.
It's my escape from reality at times, and apart from that, yes, major changes तो मेरे को अपने communication में लग रहे हैं. The way I communicate and maybe articulate my thoughts. Like I was able to articulate before as well, right? But now it has a much deeper, you can say, a deeper width or understanding or sense to whatever I write, in terms of captions or whatever posts that I do, right?
In the sense of the way you talk as well.
Yes, correct. So there's more expression now in the way I speak. It's otherwise it used to be a little flat before, is what I have felt. But yes, right now my expressions are good. I think my pauses are getting better. This is something that I've heard from the video जो मैंने थोड़ा time पहले post करा था on Instagram about that book, An Atheist Gets the Gita on Akarma.
Right.
A lot of people came to me and said that you have good pauses. And I was like, I did not practice that, but maybe it is because of the reading, because I've been reading a lot and I've been, maybe just reading in my mind and not reading it aloud. So that's why I did not know. Maybe it could be because of that. So yes, that's one. And third one is probably I have better time management skills now. That is purely that is because I'm saying is kyunki if I was not if I was not doing anything, if I was not working, then I was putting that time to maybe watching TV series or movies and all of that. But now I have, like, I know that I have to read a book, right?
Yeah.
So instead of watching a TV series or a movie, I will probably take up the book and try to finish it as soon as possible. So yes, that's another, like three, you can say three good things that happened.
So pata hai, when you talked about the way you speak now has changed, your pauses and everything, तो जो manner of speaking change होता है, this happens because of reading fiction. Because when you're reading fiction, तो constant dialogues है. Non-fiction में dialogues नहीं होते. Non-fiction is literally you are reading something else. Fiction has a lot of characters and you are reading different sentences in different voices in your mind.
Right.
So, for example, which book are you reading right now? I think so. The 40 Rules of Love. You read it recently, and I am 100% sure the voice in your head which you had for Ella, the voice which you had in your head for her daughter was completely different. जबकि दोनों women हैं, but you had different voices. You had different manner of reading what they are saying. Yeah. Right. And then you had a different voice for Rumi. You had a different voice for Tabriz. And the male character in which with whom Ella falls in love, उसका नाम क्या था? I forgot. Aziz. You had a different voice for him. Yeah. So ये जो actual this point is, ये कोई realize ही नहीं करता कि when you read fiction, it actually changes the way you talk. You become much more expressive because अब तुम constantly पढ़ रहे हो दूसरों को, and एक ही book के अंदर एक ही time पे you are reading in different voices in your head. So it makes such a huge difference. Different personalities as well in your mind, for those characters. Yeah, because while I was reading 40 Rules of Love, so I was kind of imagining Ella to be someone like me. Okay. While I was reading, I could not imagine a face for uski beti, but I could imagine, faces or how Rumi, Aziz, or Shams would be looking. I could imagine them. I could, have a border or a personality attached to all of those characters in the book. Like the way how the story starts, how Aziz is brought into the picture. I literally thought of him to be someone who looks like Hrithik Roshan, for some reason, right? For some reason, like जिस हिसाब से उसका character build होता है, the way he is acting out in the complete, his emails, how his emails are. I kind of related him to be Hrithik Roshan from Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, but in a different sense, okay? But someone who very different characteristic, मतलब personality wise and thinking wise. Because जिंदगी ना मिलेगी दोबारा ऋतिक रोशन का जर्नी उसका opposite है, where he is on his way to become Aziz, and here Aziz is already Aziz. So you can say Hrithik Roshan at the end of the movie, while Hrithik Roshan is Aziz, something like that. Makes sense. So I had like different personalities in my mind, different faces that I had given to different characters. So, and that actually adds to your own personality, because when you read different fictions, firstly, kudos to the writers, because it is one thing for us to read in different voices, and it is completely different thing to create those voices. And as you said, कि मतलब जब तूने अजीज को ऋतिक रोशन जैसे इमेजिन किया, I was in my head imagining his face or his personality to be like Saif Ali Khan. For some reason, I don't know, because Saif Ali Khan for me has that personality where he's a middle-aged man who मतलब उसने खुद का एक डिवोर्स लेके ही मैरिड करी ना, so I was in that thing कि भाई ऐसे ऐसे, so you मतलब reading का एक benefit ये कि a person can be different for you and me. Like you imagined Ella to be somewhat like yourself, I imagined Ella to be someone very different, मतलब because you could connect with her, so you put yourself in her shoes, and that is the beauty of reading. It makes you much more creative. It makes you much more stronger personality. It adds to your personality. True. And obviously your way of talking, your way of expressing gets very, how should I put it? It gets really artistic. Better. Yeah. Better to 100%. Artistic.
Artistic is the right word there.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
talking is an art, obviously, right? And as you said, ki your pauses got better, and pauses is the most,
Most important.
it's important. Meaning, in the artistic terms, it's like you have just painted the right painting, but it
you
needs.
can make or break. You can make or break a line or statement or whatever that you're saying.
Yes.
If you are not putting the correct pauses, or I mean, you can say death and take a pause, and say death and take somebody else's name, and it could mean something totally different about it. So yes, it's like it can make it or break it. It's right. Like that.
Absolutely. So talk about मतलब कौन सी books तूने अभी पढ़ी है recent times में, apart from the 40 Rules of Love, because we already discussed that.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that because your views on that are really good. वो caption तेरा. But ठीक है, before that, talk about the books you have read and why did you choose to read those books?
Okay. So, I mean, I kind of did not choose to read those books. It was like, I had to start somewhere. So, like we like whoever watching this, I think knows that we have a thing going on, a book a month with Awaara Musaafir, right? And most of the books that I've read are from that recommendation only, right? Starting from January. So I read firstly The Attitude is Everything, right?
Non-fiction.
And I literally, that was non-fiction, and मैंने पता है literally सोचा नहीं था that I will like that book. मेरे को लगा था यार ठीक है, this one more book which is a self-help book, ठीक है, क्या ये मतलब पढ़ के देख लेते हैं, छोटी सी book है, क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है. It's like 150 pages, hardly 150 pages, right? But that, like, somehow all of the books that I've read, throughout this 5 months, they somehow made me connect with myself in terms जो शायद मेरे को पता थे पहले से, but I was not aware of.
Yeah.
So I mean, that book is now something that I will recommend it to like any person who is starting out reading in terms of self-help. Right, it's a good self-help book to start with if you want to start your reading.
So journey. That book also comes under those blogs वगैरह जो आते रहते कि 50 like books that beginners need to read.
100 books.
Attitude is Everything is always there.
Right. So I mean, that book, यार मतलब उस book में इतनी ज़्यादा practical चीजें थी that somebody if wants to apply can really apply it. It's not something कि भाई बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी कि यार पूरा घर चेंज करना पड़ेगा या you have to change your way of living. इतना भी नहीं था उसमें. It was like very small steps you have to take.
I want to connect this point to our previous podcast where we were talking about ki how motivation comes from within, and Attitude is Everything teaches you exactly that. That motivation is inside you. You are not looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, so that book taught me really like कुछ चीजें थी जो मैंने शायद apply भी कर दी, like if somebody asks, like ये तो मैं बहुत जगह बोल चुकी हूँ, I guess. If somebody asks me like how am I doing, I'm always like I'm doing great or I'm doing fantastic. I'm not saying anymore I'm doing well or I'm doing fine. Those fine and well are like very mediocre terms.
Generic terms. Mediocre भी नहीं, generic terms.
Those are like generic terms which kind of actually make your energy low. They do not bring your energy up. Like when you say you're doing great, you're doing fantastic, there's this little bit of energy spike within your brain that goes like, okay, you're actually doing good, It's not like fine is like, okay, like you just answered it because you had to answer it, kind of a vibe goes out with that word. So yes, I mean, some things really do change you from within, once you start putting it up. And so do you want me to like explain all the books that I've read?
No, so the ones that you really liked.
Okay, so the ones that I really liked, so first was The Attitude is Everything, right? Second book was the February month book, that was An Atheist Gets the Gita. I liked that book majorly because I mean it is something that I was actually looking for, but I did not have it. जब मैंने actually गीता पढ़ना शुरू किया था, I did not have that T6 वाला thing. So that's why I like that book. Like, okay, चलो किसी ने कुछ बनाया है which can really help somebody who wants to read Gita and all that. That's why I like that book. It's मतलब उस book में तुम्हें exactly कुछ ऐसा नहीं मिलेगा that you can directly apply to your life or something, but it's a good handbook, I feel.
Yeah, it's a
So
starting
that,
point to reading Bhagavad
हाँ,
Gita. It makes
right,
you ready for what is
want to
coming in
explore.
Bhagavad Gita.
हाँ,
Yeah, yeah.
हाँ, it makes you ready, plus it makes you want to read more कि यार यहाँ पे ये चीज लिखी है, is it really like ऐसा है
Yeah,
क्या?
yeah. So
You
it's
want to
basically
explore
Reader's
more.
Digest of Bhagavad Gita. It's
हाँ,
exactly that.
you can say, yeah, you can say
Yeah.
that, right? So that, and next book that I liked was a bee. क्या था यार book का नाम? A Beekeeper? नहीं, The Beekeeper
Beekeeper
of
of Aleppo.
Aleppo. Why I liked that book was, शॉकिंगली मेरे को अभी तक जितनी रिकमेंडेशंस हमने करी है मेरे को सारी पसंद आई हैं. इट्स नॉट
Except for one.
हाँ, एक्सेप्ट फॉर वन, मेरे को बाकी सारी पसंद आई हैं. Beekeeper of Aleppo was a fiction story, but had a bit of reality in it.
Talked
In the
about
sense
reality.
of, yeah, in the sense of scene setting and all of that. But what I really liked about that book was, in between when there is so much of pain and suffering in the character's life, there was small moments, very small moments of love and happiness and laughter.
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to the author on that, because the way that was woven into the storyline, I was like so amazed to read that.
Yeah.
कि एक second पहले that banda is thinking of killing his wife just
And
to
that
end
is
that suffering.
yeah, that I was just going to say that,
suffering.
not to make a crime.
Not to make a crime, but just to end that suffering, because
Yeah.
uski wife is going through so much of pain of losing their son, right? And
there were many more things like should we talk about that? It would be a spoiler if we talk about it.
Yeah, but let's not talk about it. I'm just saying, let's keep it to the top level of the story, right?
There was a lot of trauma for her.
Like a lot of trauma, all of that backlog of the journey and all of it, and that person is literally holding his wife and thinking of strangling her neck just so that she does not suffers any more of that trauma.
Yeah.
And right after that there's a scene in which they are just sitting and that person farts, and there's this small cute moment where they laugh. That's like, it touches your soul in so much of there's pain, and then suddenly there's this joyous thing that's happening around, and you're like, damn. And you think of something like that to happen to you, right? If somebody is right beside you and takes care of you in that sense, you want that to happen to you, like Faisi story ever.
100%.
Damn, I mean, like, I am blown with how this story is
and
written.
This book will appeal to a lot of Khalid Hosseini's audience as well.
Yeah.
People who love Khalid Hosseini, because Khalid Hosseini, again, someone who writes about real trauma, real sufferings.
Oh God, uske books are next level of suffering. I mean,
yeah. Do you remember, like, when we used to talk on Clubhouse about books, so wahan pe bhi we had all these discussions and people used to say ki Khalid Hosseini is their favorite, and us time pe I had not read his books. I just knew ki he's a good writer. I read The Beekeeper of Aleppo, and right after that I read The Kite Runner, and I was like, this was a bad decision. This was absolutely a bad decision to read two books
of the same genre.
And The Kite Runner is extra trauma because it is trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. It ends with somewhat of hope, but it is also traumatic hope. So but what a beautiful writer. What a beautiful writer.
I've not read A Kite Runner, but I've read A Thousand Splendid Suns.
So people say it is more traumatic than The Kite Runner, or so I have heard. I have not read 1,000 Splendid Suns as of now.
But that person writes so much of trauma in his books.
Yeah.
With the fact, like, beauty dekh uska. He writes trauma with beauty in it.
Yeah, and that too about just one country, Afghanistan. He only talks about that one country.
Yes, and he talks about, I mean, वो जिस तरीके से suffering, trauma, pain की बात करता है अपने books में is a different level. मतलब वो level reach करना is a different thing. To make somebody cry or somebody feel that pain after you have written something is a big achievement. You know, it's very easier to make somebody laugh. No, it's not that easy also, but yes, to make somebody feel it, you know, like I would like to bring in, like, just say, if I don't know if everybody has watched Panchayat season 2, but what those people did with that season ending is something that Khaled
Hosseini keeps doing constantly in one book multiple times.
Yes. So
in fact, if I'm not wrong, he has written a poem wala book as well, which is, if I'm not wrong, मेरे पास में book है, I have not read it yet. It is about Syria, and वो जो एक बीच में बहुत famous photo आया था of that kid in a red shirt जो beach पे washed up था, his dead body was lying.
Oh, right.
I think so that book is about that. I have to read it, but he has written a poem about that.
I don't want to read it.
And it's a very long poem.
Thought of it. You know,
yeah, it might be traumatic. Thought of it. Because poems anyway express a lot more than prose and fiction. But yeah. So people who love Khaled Hosseini, they should definitely check out The Beekeeper of Aleppo and the other book as well. उसके बाद में भी जो एक release हुई है. We haven't read that yet, but I am not even ready to read it as of now because वो दो books से इतनी ज़्यादा मेरे लिए traumatic हो गई थी. But so you know what is the power of fiction? Power of fiction is this: it talks about reality, but it makes you imagine that you are not living that life, yet you can imagine the pain, you can imagine the trauma, you can imagine the life. So that is the power of fiction. And for some reason, मतलब लोग बहुत ज़्यादा diss करते हैं जो भी fiction पढ़ता है उनको, but fiction is just people talking about reality in their own way. Yeah.
It's a book, simple as that. I mean, diss करने का तो कोई logic ही नहीं है. It's like, you know, कि there are two competitors and one is
exactly. People look at it.
Right
now.
Yeah. That's the only fun that they have in, you know, fiction non-fiction debate. और कुछ नहीं है. Otherwise, it's all equal.
Yeah.
I mean, self-help पढ़ने वाले भी क्या ही कर ले रहे हैं बताओ. Like, if I have to challenge somebody, तुम सिर्फ self help पढ़ के कितना अपने आप को change कर रहे हो is the main question, right?
So point ही वो है ना कि if you keep only reading self help, there's no point to it because self help से तुम चीजें सीखते हो, but fiction पढ़ने से you gain that experience, and without experience, there's nothing in life. So
you remember. We were having this conversation I think few days back, and where you have asked me कि you know कि किसी की age ज़्यादा है, हाँ, that you know most of the podcasters are older.
Yeah.
And then you had asked me कि you know कि is it necessary to be old? Is it necessary
to be wise?
To be old to be a podcaster or to be wise? And then I had answered you like, nay. It's the simple experiences that you gain that make you that person. That's why, you know.
It's just after that, I realized why are older people much more wiser? It's always about experience. But experience is a byproduct of age. Because तुम जितना ज़्यादा जियोगे, जितना ज़्यादा तुम time spend करोगे, उतने ज़्यादा तुम्हें chances मिलेंगे to experience certain things. So it's a byproduct.
That's why parents क्यों बोलते हैं कि हमारा experience ये है of certain things, and they tell you to do certain things because of their experience. But हाँ हो सकता है their experience might not be really very relevant right now, हो सकता है, but you know mostly it is very relevant.
I have noticed this.
Is relevant.
I have noticed this very recently that experiences can relate with you. They may not relate with you. But the feelings, they relate with you. The feeling always stays the same because feeling of failure was same 100 years back and it is same today. भले वो experience अलग-अलग हो, but the feeling of that failure is same.
Absolutely, यार, मतलब failure is a failure. Simple as that, you know.
Yeah.
कुछ भी चीज में failure is a failure. And हो सकता है the magnitude of it might be different for you, for XYZ person, for me or from my neighbor or from my different friend. The magnitude might be different of that whole situation of failure. But yes, failures will always be a failure.
The
Why?
feeling of
जब हम
failure.
celebrate, हाँ, so I mean जब हम celebrate करते हैं, mostly the feeling of celebration is one. But at the same time, mostly the feeling of failure is so many, like so many different ways to express it. Somebody feels sad, somebody feels guilty, somebody feels whatnot,
Angry.
somebody feels angry,
Yeah.
but mostly when you're happy, you feel joy. When you're celebrating something, when you have won something, you're feeling joy. Even though you cry at times when you are feeling joyous, but it's the same joy you feeling. You're not feeling sad at that point, of feeling guilty of, winning or all of that. So, I mean, yes, failures do teach you a lot. And yes, जब लोग बोलते हैं कि हमारा experience है ये, and just listen to our experience, you should. It is, in fact, good that you listen to it. It is then up to you if you want to follow it or you don't want to follow it. It's up to you. But yes, experience do have a lot of weight, a lot of
the whole point is that you don't need to listen to someone's experience because of their age, because of them being older than you. वो अलग चीज है. That shouldn't be the case. You should listen to everyone's experience for that matter.
Yeah, you should listen to everybody's experience and just take in whatever you feel is good for you. That's it.
Yeah. Or don't take. That completely depends on you.
That is up to you. But you should listen to experiences of people. They make you better. They help you understand.
And you know what? Like, who knows? You listen to an experience today, and you become a writer tomorrow, and you use that experience to write a fictional story. So everything is useful. Look at world as a content creator. Everything is content. I usually see world now as a it's been 8 years and everything for me right now is content. So I'm talking with my mother. That is content. I am talking with my brother. That is content for me. So
everything is a content.
Everything is a content. And when you have those many ideas, you can actually generate a good amount of money from those ideas by creating content. So, and to create content, you need those experience within yourself. So, makes sense.
Absolutely.
But we digressed from the topic of books here. Coming back to books, what other books are like your favorites?
What other books? So these are not really the books that I've read this year, but I will say one of my favorite book is The Little Prince. वो मेरे को मेरे फ्रेंड्स ने गिफ्ट करी थी ऑन माय बर्थडे एंड आई वाज नॉट श्योर लाइक कि मैंने उसका जब फर्स्ट टाइम कवर देखा था एंड आई वाज लाइक यार ये तो छोटे बच्चों की बुक लग रही है व्हाई हैव दे गिफ्टेड दिस टू मी ओके एंड आई वाज लाइक never mind, let's read. It was a very small book. I finished it almost in a day or so. And I was like, when I got done with it, I was like, yeah, this book was beautiful. I had not imagined it to be something of that level, but it was intellectual at so many levels, and it talks about curiosity. And आज के टाइम पे क्यूरियोसिटी किसको नहीं चाहिए, everybody wants to have good questions, they want to ask good questions, they want to know more, they want to search things, they want to explore more, right? And how will you do that unless you have curiosity? And that book really talks about that. He talks about the child in you and how you keep forgetting about the child once you grow old. So it's not a children's book. It's a book for adults, you can say. I mean, every adult.
I mean, it's written from a perspective of a kid, but it appeals to adults more because as we grow, we kill the child in ourselves. So that's why that book appeals to us.
That book is something जो छोटा बच्चा भी पढ़ेगा ना, that kid will be lost in that fantasy of how the story progresses.
Yeah.
That kid might not understand the inner meaning of that book. He will be enjoying that fantasy world that Prince is in. It has planets and all of that, and the princes traveling on different planets, and every planet has a different time zone and all of that, right? And the kid will be mesmerized with all of those things, right? But if that book is read to them, I can guarantee, in future, if the kid again picks up that book and reads it, they will imagine themselves to be the same child who were mesmerized with that book, but again will be able to connect that mesmerized kid with themselves right now in present, and have an understanding of what it means to have curiosity and what it means to have that kid in themselves. They will be able to connect those two dots and be stunned by it.
So books are in a way time capsules, because what happens is कि जब तुम एक book पढ़ते हो, so for example अगर तुम आज एक book पढ़ रहे हो, you are imagining the characters, the whole story, the whole plot in the way जितना तुम्हारा आज brain डेवलप हुआ है, जितने तुम्हारे आज एक्सपीरियंसेस डेवलप हुए, ठीक है?
Correct.
अब तुमने वो बुक खत्म कर दी, एंड फॉर एग्जांपल यू pick up that book, say 20 years later, 30 years later, you'll read that book, but you won't read it in the same manner उस टाइम के लिए. You will go back to the same place जहाँ पे तुमने first time पढ़ी थी बुक, क्योंकि तुम्हारे दिमाग में अभी भी that character is that person जिसका face तुमने imagine किया था. The whole world will be of that.
Why do you think people say, no, जरूरी नहीं है कि you will remember the book, but you will always remember the feeling of that
feeling
book,
of reading it. Yeah,
you will always remember it, like to the core. You might not remember the story, you might remember what quotes were there, you might not remember who wrote it and what is there in that story, but you will remember how it made you feel. It's so, the same as, when you talk to a person and you say, like, you always remember how a person made you feel. It's the same with books.
Yeah. It's the same. Because I realized this few months back when, so here if you see मेरा हाथ बराबर जा रहा है, हाँ, this one, so this is all Dan Brown, okay, and I have been a huge Dan Brown fan. मतलब I'm very big, मतलब बहुत ही ज़्यादा Robert Langdon and उसका character है वो. So Dan Brown writes about Christian or the Western mythological fiction, historical fiction mix करता है वो.
Okay.
And he has a book called The Da Vinci Code, which I have read when I was probably in 11th or 12th standard. So many years back, like 7-8 years back. And literally that book, वो copy भी मेरे पास में same वाली है, जो उतने साल पुरानी है. तो all the pages have gone brownish, yellowish वाला. And I have ruined the book. But when I open that book, that smell of the book, when I read those paragraphs, those lines, it takes me back to that 11th, 12th standard wala me, and the phase that I was in at that time. So books are time capsules for sure. In fact, I'm reading a book right now. I think so I can show the book. Yeah. So this is the book. Okay. The Little Paris bookshop. And the book I firstly picked up this book क्योंकि I wanted to read a book about books, ठीक है, and इसके पहले I read that the storied life of AJ Fikri, and that was a good book. उसके बारे में भी we'll talk, but this one, the Little Paris bookshop, so this is what I want to do in future when I retire. So there's a Paris में, कि वहाँ पे waterways is a very big thing. Right, and there's this bookshop owner jiska bookshop is in a boat, and it keeps traveling in the water. And this bookshop is not a normal bookshop. This is a literary apothecary, and uska naam hi wahi hai, literary apothecary. And he will, अगर तू उसके bookshop में जाएगी इस बंदे के, and you will tell him कि sir, please give me Dan Brown's book. He'll say, no, I don't want to give you a Dan Brown book. वो तेरे से questions पूछेगा कि what do you do in your life? What is your job? When was your last breakup? How was the breakup? Do you have a love story? ऐसे weird questions पूछेगा, very personal questions. And then according to what he understands of you, and according to Yeah, according to what he thinks you need in your life, he'll give you a book and he'll tell you कि breakfast के पहले 10 पेज पढ़ना है, breakfast खाने के पहले 10 पेज दूसरे बुक के पढ़ना है, ऐसे वो तेरे को देगा. It is literally a doctor of books, and he says कि I treat the untreatable feelings, which is so beautiful. Like, this is what I want to do after I retire. I want to recommend books to people. जो मैं अभी तेरे साथ में, सुरेंद्र के साथ में, और कौन, संचित के साथ में, तुम तीनों के साथ में जो मैं करता हूँ कि आई लिटरली मतलब हैंडपिक बुक्स एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू योर फीलिंग्स, योर टेस्ट, आई वांट टू डू दिस फॉर अ लिविंग. कि डूड, व्हाट अ फकिंग गुड लाइफ दैट इज. एंड ऊपर से ही हैज लॉस्ट हिज बिलवेड, तो उसके बारे में एक पूरा आर्क है. ही फाइंड्स अ लेटर, 20-year-old लेटर. 20 साल पहले उसका ब्रेकअप हो गया था. द वुमन विथ हुम ही वाज, वो उसको छोड़ के चले गई थी सडनली. And 20 years later, he finds a letter जिसमें उसने लिखा था कि I am leaving you because I am dying. और इसको पता ही नहीं था, इसने लेटर कभी पढ़ा ही नहीं. And 20 साल निकल चुके. Now he is gone on a whole trip where he is looking for her, to find her. And उसको ये नहीं अभी पता है कि वो मर चुकी है या जिंदा है. And on the way, he is meeting a lot of new people. He is gaining new experiences. He is recommending them books. तो इतनी beautiful book है. And I'm literally, यार इतना जबरदस्त. Wait, can you see the tabs on this?
Yeah, I can.
तो जो green tabs है, those are all the books that he is talking about. So I have made a point कि जहाँ पे books का नाम लेगा, I'll keep tabbing it. Yeah. And nice. क्या ही गजब बुक है. कॉन्सेप्ट ही इतना सही है. आई वाज लाइक ब्लोन. अभी मैं आई एम हाफ वे डाउन, मे बी कल तक मैं खत्म कर दूंगा. बट इट्स अ गुड बुक. लाइक सीरियसली, जिन लोगों को मतलब, इफ यू हैव रेड मोर देन 30 or 40 बुक्स इन योर लाइफ, दिस बुक इज फॉर यू. बिकॉज you need to know certain kind of books that exist or certain kind of authors जिनकी books तुमने नहीं पढ़ी हो चलेगा, but you need to know कि they exist. Then you will definitely enjoy this book. It's a beautiful book. And the same is with the storied life of AJ Fikri. I think so.
Yeah.
This one. So again, a book about books, and again a book about a bookstore. ये तो बहुत ही, and this is a very light read. This is not something very heavy. This is a feel good book. So इसमें, as I have said earlier as well, there is a bookstore owner जिसके store से एक बहुत ही rare copy of a book of an author called Edgar Allan Poe, who is a like really good author. He has written classics. And उसकी एक book है Tamerlane करके, which is a compilation of his poems जो उसने first time लिखी थी. तो उसका एक rare copy है जो वर्ल्ड में बहुत कम है. एंड इसके पास में एक कॉपी था which was worth like thousands of dollars. चोरी हो जाता है. एंड इसके बुक स्टोर में एक कोई 2 साल की एक बच्ची को छोड़ के चला जाता है. एंड जो छोड़ के रहता है वो सुसाइड कर लेती है, उसकी जो मॉम होती है. एंड नाउ दिस पर्सन हैज टू टेक केयर ऑफ दैट लिटिल किड. उसका नाम माया है. एंड दैट बेबी ग्रोज अप इन अ बुक स्टोर. She is literally reading a new book every day, and the person, AJ Fikri, the bookshop owner,
he's writing reviews for her.
Yeah,
right?
he's writing reviews for her. Ki someday you read these books, and in the end, when AJ Fikri is dying, he says ki I have written all these reviews because my life exists in these books. When you read these books, you'll know who your father was. And that is so beautiful. Like, it connected with me because the only reason I write in my books is for this. Ki someday someone will read these books, and I don't know, to my kids or not, anyone, whoever reads, they'll know ki this is who Jayesh was. So 2 books absolutely recommended. Please read these books. क्या ही गजब लिखा है जो authors हैं. Nina George has written The Little Paris, and Gabrielle Zevin has written the AJ Fikri book. But seriously good books.
Damn.
And you'll really enjoy the AJ Fikri wala book because that is a very light read. Sirf ending thoda sa heavy hai, but completely light read. I finished it in 24 hours. So really amazing. Very pacey book.
You finished the 40 Rules of Love in 2 days. I took like around 24 days to complete that book.
I eat books. So
you eat books, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
हाँ, वो apothecary जैसे.
हाँ उसके जैसे एकदम तो सेम लाइक 50 पेजेस ब्रेकफास्ट से पहले, 50 पेजेस ब्रेकफास्ट के बाद, है ना ऐसे.
हाँ मतलब आई फिक्शन आई रियली आई एम एंजॉइंग बिकॉज मैं बहुत टाइम से नॉन फिक्शन पढ़ रहा था एंड आई वाज वेरी बोर्ड. And
Obviously.
oh yes, I also read Amitav Ghosh ki first book. This is a fable. This is called this one, The Living Mountain.
Oh, this one.
And this is what, see, ये इतना छोटा सा book है. It's 35
छोटी
odd
सी book
pages.
है.
Yeah, 35 odd pages. And this is a book जो उसको सपने में दिखी थी. Like the story was a dream. And उसने उस dream को book में convert कर दिया. And the book talks about ki how people have ruined nature for their own benefits. So, but very beautifully written story. This is छोटा सा story है बहुत. अरे it's really beautiful. And Amitav Ghosh obviously is a great writer. Now I am thinking कि I should start reading his other books as well. मैं collect anyway कर ही रहा था. तो let's start reading.
तो collect करके you are not reading it, you are just collecting it.
नहीं, आई वॉज मतलब कलेक्टिंग इट टू रीड. जब मेरे पास में सब कलेक्ट हो जाएंगे देन आई वुड स्टार्ट रीडिंग वन वन. मैंने सोचा कि यार इतना कलेक्ट करूंगा तब तक तो टाइम निकल जाएगा. अभी टाइम है तो पढ़ लेता हूँ.
नाइस, वेरी नाइस.
बट आई वोंट स्टिल स्टार्टेड फॉर अ मंथ और टू. मे बी इन जुलाई, टुवर्ड्स जुलाई एंड में स्टार्ट करूंगा. Because right now I have वो जो publishers ने books भेजी है वो पढ़नी है. Plus there are 3 fiction books which I'm really excited to read. One is The Shadow of the Wind. One is The Cuckoo Land, something like that. क्या नाम है? I cannot see it from here, but yeah. And एक है वो 1000 pages वाली Atlas वाला, Atlas Shrugged या something. Ayn Rand वाला.
Got it. Got it. My currently, like what I am looking forward to reading is one is Wonder, I think.
Which book?
Next one, Wonder. The next one is The Ghachar Gochar. ठीक है. I don't know. इसका title मेरे को काफी interest कर चुका है already.
I have read this book and you'll enjoy this book. मतलब वो जिस note पे end होता है, it's good.
Ghachar Gochar means rubbish only, I think.
In a way, not exactly, but in a way.
Yeah. And then next one is Siddhartha. Although
this is a
book
beautiful
has a
book.
lot of pages, because I think it has a commentary in the starting. जो मेरे पास बुक है.
अच्छा, you have a different edition. मैं वही सोच रहा हूँ कि तेरा सिद्धार्थ इतना बड़ा कैसे, मेरा तो छोटा था. स्टोरी बढ़ कैसे गई इतनी.
This has a commentary at the starting.
किसका commentary है?
Let me see. That is what I am trying to figure out. I think damn it, I lost kiska commentary.
But anyway,
this new expanded edition includes a comprehensive and illuminating preface by Donald McCurry that combines Hesse's biography with the writing and meaning of Siddhartha. So he kind of explains what.
So don't read the commentary. Don't read the commentary.
I will not read it.
हाँ.
I know.
वो पूरा story पढ़ ले. उसके बाद में if you feel like कि पढ़ना है तो पढ़, because Siddhartha is meant to be absorbed in your own way.
Own way, right?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Because it is a spiritual book and it is a classic, by the way.
Yeah, so these 3 books that I'm looking forward to read. Let's see when I complete them.
And you are also reading those short stories wala na?
Apart from that, I will probably be reading just.
ये reveal नहीं करना था.
Damn it, काट देना ये.
नहीं चलेगा, इतना कुछ वो नहीं है. कौन सा वो बुक ऐसी है जो किसी को पता नहीं है उसके बारे में? सबको पता है, इट्स अ फेमस बुक.
इसके ऊपर तो मूवी बन चुकी है. क्या बात कर?
मूवी है? आई डोंट नो.
तूने देखी नहीं है? There's a movie on this.
मैंने नहीं
देखी. Umbrella.
मैंने नहीं देखी.
उसमें गाना भी है. चित्रिका उड़ने खटोला लाश के मंडोला.
अबे कॉपीराइट लगेगा, तू गाना मत गा.
अबे ऐसे थोड़े कॉपीराइट लगता है.
लग जाता है, वो थोड़ा भी मिला तो लग जाता है. बट मैंने नहीं देखी है मूवी, मेरे को तो पता ही नहीं था. मैंने रस्किन बॉन्ड की एक्चुअली बुक्स भी नहीं पढ़ी है. दिस विल बी द फर्स्ट बुक. एंड फिल्म्स तो मैं एनीवे देखता नहीं हूँ, तो आई डोंट नो.
I've also not read Ruskin Bond, but yes, I think this is the same story that has been made into a movie.
Okay. मैंने
I will still verify it though, but yes, this is the same one.
एक तो पहली चीज मेरे को बुक्स के ऊपर फिल्म बनती है तो मैं और भी ज्यादा नहीं देखता बिकॉज आई एम 100% श्योर कि वो रोए नहीं कर देते.
But tell me, have you read Harry Potter or have you watched Harry Potter?
I have watched Harry Potter because I wasn't ना मैं कभी रेडी रहूंगा हैरी पॉटर पढ़ने के लिए. इतना लंबा मैं नहीं पढ़ रहा. यहाँ पे गेम ऑफ थ्रोन्स है, वो भी 3 मैंने पढ़ी है सिर्फ. उसके बाद मैं थक गया. इतना लंबा सीरीज कौन पढ़ेगा? वो उतना मुझ में पेशेंस नहीं है कि मैं बैठ के पूरा सीरीज पढ़ सकूं. मे बी अगर मैं वो जिस टाइम पे रिलीज हो रहा था एक एक बुक, उस टाइम पे वो एक एक बुक पढ़ते रहता तो हो जाता. बट अब मैं वो नहीं कि इतना लंबा सीरीज एक एक करके पढ़ते बैठूं, वो नहीं पॉसिबल होगा.
Do you think that somebody should make a book on maybe you know a beekeeper of Aleppo?
वो तो ऑलरेडी बुक है.
Or a movie on a movie on books like A Beekeeper of Aleppo or The 40 Rules of Love, or you can say, you know, some stories. I think The Alchemist. ऐसे कुछ books है which have, you know,
Alchemist I don't like. The Beekeeper of Aleppo. I think so. Yes, there should be a film. 40 Rules पे भी there should be a film because these two books are जो universal audience को मतलब you know it talks to the universal audience. And especially the 40 Rules of Love. It talks about very deep stuff. Although the 40 Rules of Love will take a very high budget something. क्योंकि वो कम बजट में नहीं बन सकती because there are two storylines. One is past, one is present.
Yeah, plus you know to have that, how should I say, the conversations which are shown in this book between Ella and Aziz, those are basically letters. To show letter in a movie is still okay.
It won't be a letter in a film. It will be a WhatsApp message or an email.
It could be a WhatsApp message, it could be an email, and it could also be an in-person conversation. Just imagine how
on a Zoom call
that can get. Yeah. Just imagine how intense it can get.
And it is also not easy to show the conversations that Shams and Rumi have. Because वो थोड़े मतलब societal norms को तोड़ने वाले conversations है. And to show that in a Muslim country, it will be very tough because वो essentially वही कर रहा है.
I mean, take the character of you know, Desert Rose in this book as well. That is also not very, you know, typical in a society kind of role. It's a very, you know, deserted role. It's not something that people.
I mean, it is a part of our society जिसको सब लोग neglect करते हैं. No one like people think about it, but they don't. They don't want to show it.
Yeah, exactly. वही है ना, जैसे 3 Idiots में वो बोलता है
छुपा के रखते हैं.
सबके पास है, छुपा के It's the same thing, you know.
उसका नाम क्या रहता है? चतुर नाम रहता है ना उसका. Shout out to चतुर.
होता है सबके, वो लगा दे इसके ऊपर लगा दे ना वो.
But हाँ, The Beekeeper of Aleppo again a book which उसके ऊपर फिल्म बननी चाहिए. Although there have been a lot of films on the refugee crisis Syria से, but this one particular can be made into a film, and that would again require good actors because those emotions need to come out.
Budget.
Yeah.
True that. I mean,
but हाँ.
कुछ books के ऊपर movies बनना चाहिए.
So
that,
there's one.
By watching a movie.
तेरा sound suddenly मेरे को sound आ गया. तेरा video नहीं आया था. अब sync हुआ है. But there's one book जिसका film I really loved. मतलब more than the book, I loved the film because book was tough to read. The Cloud Atlas. Cloud Atlas का story is कि it's a story of rebirths. Okay. And it starts way into the history, way into the past when slaves were a real thing in America. And वहां से एक life का birth होता है. It is a slave. There's a doctor. And in उसके बाद में फिर वो कहानी खत्म होती है. They die. That same life takes rebirth in the थोड़ा आगे वाला time then again in future, then in present, in future, in present, and it goes till a time जहाँ पे people from Earth have traveled to another planet to live there. उस टाइम तक वो पहुंचता है. एंड द बुक इट इज लाइक कि जब वो पहले का टाइम बता रहे थे, हिस्ट्री वाला टाइम, तो उस टाइम पे जिस तरह से लोग बात करते थे बुक में वैसे ही लिखा है. तो द लैंग्वेज इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू रीड, एंड देन एज द स्टोरी प्रोग्रेसेस लैंग्वेज चेंजेस. एंड जब फ्यूचर का पॉइंट आता है द लैंग्वेज इज कंप्लीटली बिजार, क्योंकि फ्यूचर में कौन कैसे बात करेगा यू डोंट नो. तो ऑथर ने खुद का वो लेके ही हैज रिटन जिब्रिश में. हाँ, although it is English only, but a very different kind of English, textual, वो phonic जो रहता है वो, plus something different उसमें. The book can be very tough to read, although a very beautiful book. Everyone should read that book, but it can get tough to read. So there's the film on it. It is also called, I think so, Cloud Atlas only. And उसमें वो एक्टर है, हाउस ऑफ कार्ड्स वाला जो मेन एक्टर है ना, वो है, मैं नाम भूल गया उसका.
I have not watched House of Cards.
क्या कर रही है तू जिंदगी में? बट एनीवे मैं उसका नाम भूल गया. ही इज अ गुड एक्टर.
Do you really want me to go? मैं क्या कर रही हूँ जिंदगी में?
बट वो फिल्म देख यार, वो फिल्म इतनी जबरदस्त है बिकॉज उसमें बजट अच्छा था उनके पास में, तो दे कुड शो एवरीथिंग. एंड
is it by the same name, Cloud Atlas?
हाँ, Cloud Atlas. Yeah.
Okay, I will watch.
I think so. It's available either on Netflix or Amazon. कहीं तो है, या तो
कहीं तो होगा,
या तो शायद से YouTube रेंट पे है, कहीं तो है.
ठीक है, I will figure that out. That's not an issue.
But great film. तो मेरे को एक ही वो बुक्स के ऊपर फिल्म है जो पसंद आई थी. Otherwise I have always hated films जो बुक्स पे बनती है, except for Harry Potter, क्योंकि Harry Potter तो मैंने पढ़ी नहीं है.
Harry Potter तो यार एक ही सारा है मूवी है.
एंड मैंने हैरी पॉटर भी बहुत लेट देखा है लाइफ में. जब पैंडेमिक फर्स्ट लगा था तब मैंने देखा, उसके पहले मैंने देखा नहीं था.
Are you serious?
हाँ, मैंने नहीं देखा था.
Are you serious? Like I've watched Harry Potter. I like शायद first two parts तो नहीं देखे मैंने थिएटर में, because I think first two parts तब आए थे जब I was just born or something like that. First part at least. But I've watched maximum of Harry Potter in theaters. Maximum.
मैंने नहीं देखा, मैंने एक्सपीरियंस ही नहीं किया थिएटर में देखने का. बट हाँ, वो पैंडेमिक जब लगा था एंड आई गॉट बोर्ड सब देख के, देन आई थॉट कि लेट्स वॉच हैरी पॉटर नाउ.
Maximum of it I watched in theater. I guess the last two parts I could not watch it in theater, so I watched it later, matlab. But yes, maximum of it I watched in theaters. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, ये मैंने नहीं किया.
Kidding me कि अगर तूने पैंडेमिक में स्टार्ट किया था हैरी पॉटर देखना, I'm like wow.
हाँ, मैंने तब स्टार्ट किया था.
That's something.
तो although apart from that, are there any films that you want कि उन पे बुक कोई लिखे?
Films. I don't know, man. Like books को film convert करना makes sense to me. Like to convert a movie into a film does not make sense, like at all.
बाहुबली हुआ है.
बाहुबली की बुक लिख रहे हैं.
ऑलरेडी लिख दी है. ऑलरेडी लिख दी है. It's available.
करेंगे क्या? Like बाहुबली.
You can go into much more details now.
No, but the way बाहुबली was made, वो grand movie क्यों है? Because of the production it had, you know.
हाँ.
When it comes to a movie.
I agree to that, but when you watch बाहुबली, there are certain questions in your mind ना कि ये किस टाइम में हो रहा है? What was that India like? To establish that, they had to write a book. And I think so वो उन्होंने लिखी है, आनंद नीलकंठन ने, who has written a book on Ramayana as well.
I would also want RRR to be written as well.
मैंने देखी नहीं अब तक.
As a book. Watch it. Watch that movie. उसके कुछ parts are so intriguing. You will feel that in yourself, you know, कि भाई साहब ये जा कैसे नहीं रहे हमारे देश को छोड़ के, ये कौन है ये लोग? You will feel that.
हाँ, वो it's about the British. Yeah.
हाँ, you will feel it in you यार कि यार how can they torture us in our own country and you know gleaming about it like हम तो बहुत मान है वैसे types. You will feel it in you.
Yeah. You know what two films will make three films that will make really good four films that will make really good books. One is your Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. Someone needs to write that kind of story. Second, Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. Again, one guy who changes pura life, travels like that, needs to be written. Third book, Dil Dhadakne Do, a family drama on a cruise, that too traveling. Amazing concept. Then fourth one is the old in sub movies jaisi wali movies, Dil Chahta Hai. Three friends go on a trip.
Damn it! Like you literally said all of my top movies that I can.
It is everyone's top films. Anyone in our age has to have these as their favorites.
But for some reasons, Ye Jawani Hai Diwani is not given the due credit.
Dude, I am who I am today because of Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. नहीं तो मैं कुछ और होता.
I'm telling you, like most of the people go on saying that Ye Jawani Hai Diwani is a very rom-comish or that sort of a movie. But I think they fail to understand how artistic that movie is, how greatly it explains the mind of an artist.
Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, it obviously talks about that, and I chose journalism because of that film. नहीं तो मैं journalism choose भी नहीं करता. I wanted to do something in political science, but I chose journalism just for that film. Oh, and also the other film, Ranbir Kapoor ki, Tamasha. It needs to be converted into a book. It will be a good book.
Yes, it could be a good book. हाँ, मैं वही सोच रही थी, like how did Tamasha miss the list?
Yeah.
Of good books.
It will definitely, मतलब इन सब all of these books will do good. But मेरे को ये भी पता है कि वो book जब release होगी तमाशा वाली, अगर कोई लिखता है, it won't work. Then after like 50 odd years, it will suddenly come up.
Somebody
कि
will
भाई
say,
क्या book लिखी है?
क्या book लिखी है? हाँ, exactly.
हाँ, it will be a classic. जो classics के साथ में होता है आज, it will happen to that book.
Right. I mean, yes. So like, Bollywood has some good movies, but because of majority of it to be crap, most of the people don't watch Bollywood also. Then
I usually like to watch Bollywood. Matlab, very few Bollywood films. I don't like to watch romance. I don't even like to read romance. But films like these, like Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara and Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, I love these films. Travel wala, and it has to. Matlab, it is not just completely travel. It has other elements as well, so it makes it very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. अरे मतलब हम वही तो बात कर रहे थे ना, like in 40 Rules of Love, how I imagine Aziz to be Hrithik Roshan from Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara at the end. So I mean, yes, the characters, वो सारी movies में the characters keep evolving throughout the movie. There's no particular character.
Ye Jawani Hai Diwani as well, like Ranbir Kapoor in first half and second half, two different people. Tamasha, two different people. वो तो literally starting से दो अलग personalities है उस वो तो. And दिल चाहता है में all the three friends in the end, वो जो एक scene है जहाँ पे वो traffic में अटका है आमिर खान ही अटकता है ना traffic में, and he is imagining कि college days में हम कैसे थे. हाँ, college days में हम कैसे थे, is remembering that. दूसरी फिल्म कौन सी बोली थी मैंने? दिल धड़कने दो. Again, Ranveer Singh changes, Anil Kapoor changes. It is more about Anil Kapoor being 2%. So yeah.
I mean, तो बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो in movies में is of good plot and good character building, कहना चाहिए. That makes it a very eventful ride, you can say.
Yeah. And hopefully someone writes these books, क्योंकि मैं तो पढ़ूंगा. I would 100% be interested in these kind of books.
Why don't you write?
I am not such a good writer कि मैं एक book लिख सकूं. Maybe 50 years down the line, sure. अभी नहीं. Although I might change a few details about Ye Jawani Hai Diwani फिर. Instead of Ranbir Kapoor doing a journalism में course, he'll do a course in podcasting.
Makes sense.
Makes
sense.
God, but ठीक है. Anyway, this episode should end here. हमने कितना देर बात किया? Almost 1 hour. So
I know, almost 1 hour.
Yeah.
Damn.
But anyway, this was a good conversation on books, a very light conversation. Let's do such videos more in season 3. Maybe every month take video or one podcast with the
Hopefully.
whole team. And
Yeah,
that's
and we can
amazing.
discuss books
Yeah, we can discuss films, books, web series, anything. We might
annotations. You can also
we
discuss
might do it
annotations.
live as well. Instead of recordings, we
Yeah,
might do it live. That
yeah.
would be much better.
Hopefully my internet stays with me like today it did.
Hopefully, you might shift to Bangalore or somewhere till then.
Let's see. Who knows?
Let's see. Let's. This is your moment to say cut.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go there.
All right.
Too
So
much personal info.
this has been a good conversation. Recorded 2 podcasts. Awesome. कौन सा वाला first release होगा? कौन सा वाला नहीं पता ही है कौन सा release होगा first. But anyway, Anshula, thank you for doing this. अब इन सब का thumbnail भी तुझे ही बनाना है. So bye.
Shit.